Today's adventure is going to be Mud Springs Loop, and we begin at the Sawmill Trailhead off of Lee Canyon Road. Here's a good shot of Mummy Mountain, Mummy's Head, and it is the first weekend in June. So let you know the timing here of this experience, and here's Lee Canyon Road looking down. Quick 360 degree view where we are. So let's get started. Okay, here we are, great little parking area. After you turn off of Lee Canyon Road, the road will quickly tee off, and you take a right for the equestrian parking area and trailhead, and you take a left for the hikers trailhead area. And we are at the hikers trailhead. Once you park, the actual trailhead is right here. Okay, we begin. Now, some interesting and important things to note about this trail is that it's in the forest, which means that during a lot of the experience, and we're starting out on the yellow trail, we're going to end up on the actual loop in about a quarter mile, which is the red trail. And so the beginning is marked, but the point is that we're starting out in the forest, and it gets a little deeper as we continue, which means that reference points like, okay, we're looking straight at Mummy's Head in the distance there. A lot of the time, those reference points are going to disappear, and there will be a number of splits in the trail that are, oh, interesting. There's a little barrier. Anyway, there will be a number of splits in the trail that are not marked. And so this Mud Springs Trail is pretty notorious for, when you get in the loop, it's a 15-mile loop, it's pretty notorious for getting off course. In fact, the first time that I took the trail, I ended up, I believe it was at the base of Macks Peak. I'm not absolutely sure where I was, but I did not get the entire loop. So anyway, yeah, we're going to try the loop again. And I took it in a clockwise direction last time, about a year and a half ago. I'm going to take it in a counterclockwise direction this time, see if the connections are hopefully a little more obvious. And as you can see, points of reference already are beginning to disappear. Plus, it's somewhat cloudy today. So we're operating sort of blind. I don't use GPS. I try to just go by the feel of the wilderness. And so, yeah, let's go to that first quarter mile split off, and we'll see some of the marked beginnings of the loop. And yeah, look at this. There are a few little ribbons tied to trees, which help show why that others have also gotten off course on this trail in the past and leave these ribbons on the trees. Okay, here we go, continuing on the Mud Springs Loop Trail. Okay, to be fair, these markers on the trees are probably due to the need for markers during the winter. Maybe this was used for a cross-country ski trail. But still, yeah, this is the last real trail sign that, one of the last that I remember seeing, where we head off from the yellow trail, which takes a right here, to the red trail, which is going to take us around Mud Springs Loop. So here we go, and just to give you a 360-degree view, yeah, you can see that already the reference points in the distance, mountain peaks, hills, have pretty much disappeared. You can faintly see here in the distance behind the trees that it looks like there's a hill over here and there's a hill over here, and we're heading for the saddle between those two hills, and that's where we're going to have a choice of taking the first left, which will be the clockwise direction of the Mud Springs Loop, or going a little further, taking the second left, which will be the counterclockwise direction, and we're going counterclockwise today. So we'll see that when it occurs. We still have trail markers, little ribbons on the trees, which is nice. I hope that they don't disappear when the trail becomes less obvious, but my experience is that markers tend to disappear when the trail is less obvious, and they appear when the trail is obvious. So go figure. Trail markers continuing on the trees here, and interesting little shelter someone has constructed. Okay, continuing on, looking for that first turnoff. Okay, here's one of the rare times where the trail rises up and you get a perspective of the overall area. And here we're looking at Mummy's Head. Great shot. And continuing the 360, here is a great shot of Angel Peak. And you can see the gathering clouds. So reference points like these may be hidden later when we're in the midst of all the little rabbit trails that split off in different directions in the forest up ahead. So we'll see how that works. And here's a 360. Yeah. So still not total visibility in a 360-degree direction, but at least this is a nice little spot where you get a perspective of where we are. And then, of course, we can look down on Lee Canyon Road. And we're still rising up to a point where we'll have a choice to take the first left for the clockwise direction of the loop, or the second left for the counterclockwise direction. We're taking the second left today, and I'll show you when we reach those points. Here we go. Another opening showing our reference points. Angel Peak, Mummy's Head, and now the hill that, as you can see on the right, it's going downward. That goes down to the saddle, which will mark our exit from the Mud Springs Loop. So if we get all disoriented later, we will look for this hill and the next hill, which is up this way, which we cannot see right now because of the forest. But we'll look for the saddle between those two hills as our way out. Okay, here's the first left. And this is the direction you would go if you wanted to take the Mud Springs Loop in a clockwise direction. And as I said, I got disoriented on my last trip, ended up going through Macks Canyon, and I believe ended up at the base of Macks Peak. We don't know. All I know is that I was at 9,000 feet, a little over 9,000 feet, and I knew that the top elevation of this trail was around 7,600, and that's where I began to realize I am off course and no points of reference. And so, yeah, I retraced my way back to this point and then back to the trailhead. Today, though, we're going to continue on a little further, take what should be a second left. Of course, I'm in unfamiliar ground now. Second left should take us around the loop in a counterclockwise direction. This was the clockwise direction for the loop. Counterclockwise direction. So let's continue on up. Wow, an even grander perspective. We still haven't hit that second left, but we haven't gone very far either. Look at the definition here of Mummy's Head. I'll remember this for later climbing adventures. I have yet to summit Mummy's Head, but that direction between those two large rock formations would be the path to the summit of Mummy's Head. And then looking around here, what else do we see? I believe this is a portion of Deer Creek Road. That's the connector between Kyle Canyon Road and Lee Canyon Road. Speaking of Lee Canyon Road, it is right below, and there's the trailhead where we begin. So, and then here, of course, is Angel Peak. It'd be nice to see all these reference points later in the day when we're on all the rabbit trails in the midst of the forest here, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. Okay, continuing onward. Good shot down Lee Canyon Road. They're looking down Lee Canyon right at the sheep range. As you can see, lots of clouds, or at least clouds moving in. And then you can see north of the sheep range. And let's see, areas south of the sheep range. Yeah. And, okay, that's what I'm looking for. I believe we're looking at Gas Peak. So, yeah, more points of reference. It's always good to know where you are in the large picture, except, as I said, the large picture is likely to disappear as we get into the forest on the rabbit trails on this loop. Still looking for that second left. Hope I didn't pass it. Here we go. Here's a good perspective, or I would say our first perspective of the Mud Springs Loop area. We have over here a reference point. I believe this is Macks Peak. I mistook it my first round for McFarland Peak, but it's way too close to this area to be McFarland Peak. I think McFarland Peak would more likely be off in this direction. I knew nothing of this Lee Canyon area the first time I made this trip. That's why I got so disoriented. There is Mummy's Head. And a little more of the 360. This is the area down Lee Canyon Road. You can't see anything right now, but the great thing is that, yeah, we're getting our first perspective of the Mud Springs Loop area. So, and then if you were taking that clockwise direction, you'd be somewhere on the side of this hill by now and heading clockwise around the loop. Instead, I'm looking for the left turn off this trail that will lead us to the counterclockwise direction of the loop. So, continuing on. More of the perspective, more information as we continue. Yeah, all those markers on the trail were apparently not for cross-country skiers, but there is a race in progress. And I don't know if the race goes around the loop or if it's just in this lower or upper area, I guess. Still looking for that left turn, but I'm also wanting to point out, here's another view of the area between the loop. This is at the center of the loop. And then over this way, again, there's, I believe, Macks Peak. And then over this way, Mummy's Head. So there you have it. And we're continuing along, looking for the next runner that comes up to this high point. So look at the center of the loop. And the loop is going to head down this hill and then circle around to where that hill is in the distance. Maybe the other side, maybe this side, we don't know. And then circle back, up, and around, and out the that junction we passed just a moment ago. Another view of the center of the loop, even better. And you can almost picture the loop heading down this hill, circling around, and maybe circling around in front of that next hill, and then heading back up this direction and crossing right near the base of Macks Peak, and then on over to that last junction. We're still looking for the next left, so we'll see what things look like as we continue. But yeah, I would think the next left is going to be somewhere before those low hills. There's a bit of a confusing point. We know we need to be on the red trail. And the red trail, there's a pointer. On the red trail, there's the pointer that heads up in this direction. However, this direction looks like our left turn. I'm going to go up a little further, see if there's another left. Otherwise, I'm going to come back and take this turn, which I'm thinking should head around the loop. let's just check this out. And the red trail direction should be the direction we go, but we don't know. Okay, and so what we have here is a couple lefts, actually. This one's been blocked off. It looks more like almost like a road. Yeah, could that be the Mud Springs Loop? We don't know. I'm going to actually head back to that first little split off because it just seemed more logical as a direction to go. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, we're back at this red trail sign that's taking you off the main direction. And shortly you reach a road, which is another left. But you know, I'm thinking, the more I think about it, I went down that road a little bit and I know that there's a Pinyon Pine Trail. I just can't believe that's the Mud Springs Loop. So here we go, off in this direction, what I think is the Mud Springs Loop, and let's just see what happens. This should be interesting. Okay, now we are on the green trail. I don't think Mud Springs Loop is supposed to be a green trail, but hey, let's just continue on this. It looks like it logically should be the Mud Springs Loop. We're continuing down this side of the bowl as I thought. And another good thing about taking this first little trail is that, yes, if it goes off course, it's going to head more toward the center of the bowl, and I'll still be able to loop backwards to the beginning of the loop. If, on the other hand, it takes off in another direction to the right, it'll hit that big road, which will let me know that I'm still on the loop. So we're going to see where we end up. But look at these views. So beautiful in the early morning. And then, you know, back to Macks Peak up there. We guess what are these peaks? Yeah, I believe this is Macks Peak. And then we know, continuing on this ridge, we would later reach McFarland Peak. Maybe this is McFarland Peak. We don't know. And then continuing onward further, this could be McFarland Peak, or we know Bonanza Peak is even further down the ridge line. So, yeah, that I bet, yeah, this just looks more like McFarland Peak. And Bonanza Peak would be somewhere right in that area. Just scoping out this area a little better. The Bonanza Trail would be on the far side of the ridge line up here, up ahead. Okay, in the meantime, yes, continuing along what I believe may be the Mud Springs Loop Trail, we will find out. We're going to make some kind of loop, I hope. Okay, pretty steady descent here. And I can see what I believe is the other side of the loop on this ridge in the foreground. So I believe that the loop continues down this way and eventually is going to hit a road where we turn left and we reconnect with the other side of the loop. But we don't know. We'll find out. Okay, here's a good sign. Even though it said the red trail was a straight ahead way back there before I turned off on this smaller trail, now it's telling me I'm still on the red trail, which is good. So now we're going to continue straight ahead on this red trail. One thing I'll say for this loop is that, yes, if you want to be in a quiet, serene surrounding that is in a juniper and pine forest, you're not going to see the spectacular views for a good portion of the loop, but this is a beautiful area and I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, up ahead there's another ribbon reminding us that we are on the red trail, although so far since I took the left that started us off on this narrow trail, there have been no places where one could make a mistake. It's pretty clear and it does look well traveled. So these are all good signs that we are on course. And you know, the ribbons continue, one up ahead again, and so yeah, this is quite the nice little experience. And yeah, places like this that look like, oh, does it go this direction? Well, that peters out and there's a red ribbon up ahead to say continue on this way. So nice little trail. Quick note, if you're on a mountain bike or an electric bike, you better have really wide tires, because there are places like this where the surface is loose rock and rather deep and you would get bogged down. And there are also places along this trail on the other side of the loop that where only foot traffic is allowed. So just a quick note. And wow, look at the red signs. Yeah, we're still in the right place. That's what I mean by rabbit trails. But so far, very well marked. And I think the red ribbons may be due to the fact that there is that run, and it turns out that there are numerous loops the runners can take that result in different lengths of run, and I think the longest is around 38 kilometers, not sure. Anyway, yeah, so you're coming close to a marathon, or you're doing a lighter run. And I think all of them are starting out the Sawmill Trail this first weekend in June. So if you're a runner and you like to do wilderness runs, races, be watching for that run the first weekend in June. And you may find yourself on this network of trails. Okay, a little more information on that run. Just passed a runner going in the opposite direction. Not that I'm running, I'm doing a little running, but was able to get a little more information on today's run. And this runner was doing a 57-mile version of the run. And boy, they send you around multiple loops, multiple times. And by the way, here's a good view of the center of the loop. And back up to Macks Peak and Mummy's Head. If you want a wilderness run that's gonna really send you a long distance, I guess this is the one to watch for. So yeah, there's that ridge system that starts at Mummy's Head, and you end up in the Bonanza Trail, and you're on the other side of Macks Peak, and then you're continuing along the ridge. But here's a familiar view. There's the sheep range straight ahead, and then to the right or south is Gas Peak. So yeah, it helps to know some of the larger landmarks. And by the way, lot of areas to explore below us. So yeah, future exploration. Wonder what this is over here. Wow. So yeah, Las Vegas area trails. It does not end. You can spend a lifetime on these trails and never do the same trail twice. Okay, so continuing on, at this junction here, we round to the left and continue down this way and see more runners coming. Looks like I'm on, if I were running the race, I would be doing their 19-mile loop backwards. But there are 19-milers, there are 38-milers, there are 57-milers. Those are the various distances I've seen in this race so far. A lot of runners looping around over and over again. There's one up ahead you can see very faintly in red. Okay, and then a quick 360. You can see the familiar mountains. You see, yeah, that looks like one of the sisters in the center, Macks Peak. And looking along the ridge, the other side of that ridge is the is the Bonanza Trail and ends, well, it goes to Bonanza Peak and continues on down. And yeah, it looks like we've got 4 runners heading toward us. Okay, there's an area I just traversed. The reason I'm showing it is that, yeah, we are on a kind of a road. You can't see it so much looking in this direction, but yeah, we're on a road. A lot of runners still looping around. Okay, on a road, looking like we're heading back toward Mummy Mountain's head, which we have circled around and headed toward the head a number of times and then headed off in the other direction. So we'll find out where we are. We know we began around Mummy's head, so whether or not this is the Mud Springs loop that I am on, I'm on one of the loops out in the Sawmill Trails area. Runners still running the loop here. Okay, so many rabbit roads here. Who knows where we are? I do know that there are a lot of runners along this road. It seems to be their red loop, so, and we're heading toward Mummy's head. So let's just continue and see where this ends up. Oh, maybe we'll call this day Loops in the Sawmill Trail area. Here's another trail. It says it's the Blue Trail. Who knows where that one goes? I'm going to stay on the road here and keep heading up. We'll see where this goes. Well, I think I'm going to call this day Lost in the Sawmill Trail and Road Loop System. At least I'm not one of the racers blowing a race. There's Mummy's head. And we have definitely, yeah, Macks Peak. We've definitely looped around, but I just don't think I've been doing the official Mud Springs loop. So we'll have to come back and we'll be in search of the Mud Springs loop. Let's see what this sign says. It looks like this is for the racers. "5K, make a U-turn." Okay, so I'm about 2.5 miles from the trailhead, if that's the case. And I were doing a 5K, but definitely went more than 5K today. We've been all around these hills below us, but still didn't find a way down to the base of the bowl where we should have been circled around and headed back to the other side of the bowl and around. That would have been the Mud Springs loop. It's a large loop, but no, it's not the official Mud Springs loop. So let's continue on up, and I have a feeling this is going to circle around and head back to the Sawmill Trailhead. Yes, and there's another shot of Lee Canyon Road, and in the distance, Sheep Range, Gas Peak. So yeah, we are heading back definitely to our starting point, and we'll need to come back and try more of these loops just to see where they all go. And at some point we'll name them all, we'll have them down, and we'll be able to direct others on which loop is which, and just, you know, give you a little more clarity of this area. But from my perspective here, a lot of looping road choices I've seen, you know, looping roads and trails. So yeah, this is anything but clear, and nothing was really marked by a trail name. So we'll just have to figure all these out. But it's a beautiful loop system. Beautiful view of Mummy's Head again. And there's Lee Canyon Road below us. And maybe the Sawmill Trailhead area. We don't know. But we'll find out soon. Then over to Macks Peak. Let's get a closer look at Mummy's Head. Another perspective. And then you can see Lee Peak, and to the left, the tip of Charleston Peak. We know the ski areas at the base of Lee Peak, and if you were on Charleston Peak, over behind here, right in the center, you'd be on the Charleston loop around to Lee Peak, over to below Mummy Mountain, and back to the Trail Canyon Trailhead. So that gives you a little idea of where things are. And here is a shot of Angel Peak. So a lot of familiar peaks here. Weather's clearing up a bit. So we'll just head down this road and see where it takes us. Okay, logic says I just skirt the edge of this ridge, and I've got Lee Canyon Road to my right. Pretty much can't mess up. So we'll just keep skirting the edge of this ridge and probably come out where we left the trail originally in the beginning. Fun little road system here. And yeah, there's Mummy's Head. And more importantly, here at the right side of these two hills is the saddle above the Sawmill Trail. So let's just take this road, and I'm suspecting it's going to lead back along this ridge to that saddle, and the Sawmill Trail is going to be at the base of the hill on the left. So yeah, we've been all over the place. I'll have to look at a map when I get back and describe each trail that I've been on today. Wow, we didn't do the Mud Springs loop, but we did make quite a loop, and we're still looping around. We've got Lee Canyon Road to our left, and Macks Peak to our right. And I believe that high ridge was actually the ridge that I was on earlier. There is at the base of the right hump there of those two hills is the saddle I was on, where I deviated to what I thought was the Mud Springs Loop, and I still think it is part of it. Anyway, yeah, Mummy Mountain straight ahead, and we're going to continue on this road, believing that, yes, it's going to head toward Mummy Mountain, and it's going to dip down into to Lee Canyon Road, right about the Sawmill Trail area. We don't know, but that is our best guess. And wow, what a day. What a beautiful day it is here. It's a good day to get lost on a series of loop roads in the Sawmill Trail area. So yes, I understand this area much better than I did before, but still have not found Mud Springs Loop or made that entire loop. So we'll have to come back to do Mud Springs Loop. This is some other loop that I've been on. That saddle is down at the right side of those 3 hills up ahead, and that's where we originally topped the ridge, and we were on the ridge above, and below us now is the Sawmill Trailhead area. So yeah, everything's coming back together, but wow, we were way off course. There's Mummy's Head and Angel Peak. Okay, let's continue on. Continuing to skirt the east side, the upper east side of Lee Canyon. Yeah, there's the Lee Canyon Road is below us, and I think that's a group camp area. It's not the Sawmill Trailhead yet, but this looks like it is leading in the direction I want to go. So I'm taking this little trail and just staying high in the canyon. Okay, I think I've been at this junction earlier today, and instead of going the yellow trail, I took the red trail and a huge loop. I just came out the yellow trail here, so go figure what loop that is. I'll take a look at maps and see where all I might have been, but yeah, pretty huge loop. And there's the way that I went originally, and this must be the trail back to the Sawmill Trailhead area. So let's continue on down. Well, I may not have found the exact Mud Springs Loop, but I did happen to come out of this maze of trails at what I believe is the exact point that I entered a number of hours ago. Let's take a look. The beast should be up here if I'm in the right spot. If not, we'll do a little backtracking, but I know that I'm in the Sawmill Trailhead parking area. So let's just see if the beast is up here ahead. And guess what? Yes, we emerged at the exact point we entered. And let's see, how long has it been? From about 6 o'clock. It's almost 12. It's 11:30. So 5.5 hours up in these hills and in a maze of trails. Yeah, we were on part of the Mud Springs Loop, I believe, but then departed that loop and did not make it all the way around. Here's those hills that we were using as a point of reference, and where they dip down in the center, there's the saddle we passed through that on the way, and that then became the point of reference for the return trip, and that's why I was able to emerge from all that maze of trails and roads at the exact spot where I entered. And yeah, totally unmarked. So anyway, yeah, Sawmill Trail medley of trails, and back at the beast.